I actually think that this is probably the best case scenario for San Francisco is the Minnesota Vikings coming to play them. And not necessarily because I think the Vikings were like such a bad team or anything like that, but I just think the Vikings, the way they play, with the way they like to run the ball with Dalvin Cook, I think could create a lot of trouble when they go into the San Francisco 49ers stadium trying to figure out a way how to get a win. It's not going to come easy, and I think a large part of it is simply just due to style. The Minnesota Vikings have had a lot of success running the ball with Dalvin Cook this season, and let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about how well they're able to do. We'll start things off with this play. This is what they can do. I mean, the main blocks you're going to want to take a look at will be the center and the right guard, blocking those two Dallas players right over there. And essentially, their goal is to just try to push them as far to the outside as possible. That's where they want Dalvin Cook to run up to, and then they'll also just have a couple of blocks right there. Nothing really too fancy in that regard, but the real key thing is going to be that the tight end on the right side of the screen and also the fullback will both be moving up to block linebackers. And so if they can get this to work, they have a lot of blocks deep down the field. They're taking away the second level. And also, if those first two blocks can work, this could create a hole. And just look at how big of a hole it's going to open up here. I mean, those two blocks, so well done. I mean, there's just a huge gap right there. Dalvin Cook can walk backwards and gain some yards if he wants to. So that part already well done. There is one slight problem, and that is going to be the tight end trying to block a linebacker. He's not exactly in perfect position, not in terrible position, but not in a great position either. Keep in mind that in a perfect world, he would have actually pushed the linebacker sort of further to the right side of the screen. That can't really happen at this point, so instead he's going to say, hey, I got to block you some way. I'm going to block you to the left. Hopefully Dalvin Cook sees that, and he'll run to the right. And that's exactly what happens. Good awareness by Cook to be able to shift over to the right a little bit, picks up a huge gain, and that's what the Vikings are capable of. And it's not just the fact that they can block well. I mean, like, even on this play, you're going to have your right guard, right tackle, and a tight end all just have one-on-one matchups. And once again, they are going to try to take away the second level with just straight up blocks. They're going to have their center move out to block a linebacker, and also their fullback, obviously, will be blocking a linebacker as well. So nothing really too fancy, but the key thing, because of what you're doing, means that really the most difficult block is going to be your left guard is going to have to move up to try to block that interior lineman. He's going to have to shift over because he doesn't want to allow him to get to the left side of the screen. So this is definitely the highest degree of difficulty block that's going to have to be made here. And it's actually not going to be made here. Dallas's defensive tackle is able to win his one-on-one matchup. He is in a position where now he can try to run over and make a tackle on Cook. So, really good play there, and that's kind of the problem with running a lot of those types of runs is that you give yourself a lot of one-on-one matchups. The dilemma is that all it takes is one guy to win their one-on-one matchup on defense, and now you're in trouble. But just because you're in trouble doesn't mean that you're screwed, and quite frankly, there's few guys in the league that are better at bailing out their offensive linemen than Dalvin Cook. Watch how he's able to still get by him, and then it basically works out as though he did make his block for the most part. He does eventually get brought down, but he gets the first down. That's what Dalvin Cook is capable of. That's what the Vikings offensive line in the running game is capable of. And that's what they've been doing all season, is just running over teams. They're one of the best running teams in the NFL, without a doubt. And so I think a lot of people would say, okay, Jackson, you started off this video kind of weird. You first off said that the Vikings are going to be in trouble, but then you said the Vikings are one of the best running teams in the NFL. So shouldn't that be a good thing, not a bad thing? And, well, yes, I mean, if they were able to run the ball against the 49ers, that would be great. But I just don't know if they'll be able to do that because San Francisco is just so good at stopping the run. And watch, let's just take an example from a division rival of the Vikings. Let's take an example from the Packers game. The way the Packers are going to block here is that they're going to have a double team with that interior lineman, but then the right tackle will get off the double team to move up and block a linebacker. And they're also going to have a tight end who he's actually going to move up to block that San Francisco 49ers player right over there, which is a little bit interesting. Not what a lot of people would do. A lot of people would just have the tight end block an edge rusher. But the reason why they're doing that is because the Green Bay Packers are actually going to pull their left guard over to block the edge rusher. So that's where the blocking concept is going to go to. Definitely a little bit interesting, but basically this means that for San Francisco, there's two guys you're going to want to take a look at. The first of which is going to be Fred Warner, their linebacker, who he's the one that's not getting blocked on this play, so he could potentially run over and try to make a play. But also, what the key guy you're going to take a look at is going to be DJ Jones, as because they're pulling the left guard over, this now means that a center is going to have a one-on-one matchup. And, as I always talk about, you don't want to have your center have a one-on-one matchup on the line if you can avoid it, because it's just more difficult to get your hands up than it is in any other position. And so it is a favorable matchup for Jones, but also watch how he takes advantage of this favorable matchup. He just blows by his assigned man, and just like that, the Green Bay Packers are in trouble. And even more trouble when if you look up, Fred Warner has done a great job of moving over to the right side of the screen. I mean, look, it looks like he was already lined up on that side of the screen, but he wasn't. He was lined up in the middle. He just quickly moved over once he saw that's where the blocks were going. There's nothing Aaron Jones can do. He gets brought down. They don't gain anything. And that's what this San Francisco 49ers team can do. And Minnesota has to be very wary of it. It is going to be a big time matchup. One of the best teams in the league at rushing the ball versus one of the best teams at stopping the run. It's going to be very interesting. DJ Jones is one of those guys who he had a great game, and he doesn't get talked about at all because, he's a run-stopping interior lineman that was a 6th-round pick. Of course, no one's going to talk about him. But he's actually a pretty good player. And watch, he had another great play in the same game. It was right here. Now, unfortunately for Jones, he's injured for the rest of the season, so that definitely kind of sucks. Although San Francisco has no shortage of great talent on that line. But there was actually one other great play that was not just by him. He is going to have a great play in this one. He's going up against the center. The center is going to try to block like that, where he runs out to the left side of the screen a little bit and blocks him to the right. And as you see, after the first step, Jones just gets completely by him. But also, if you look over there, that's Jimmy Ward. And notice how he's so much further to the inside than the receiver who's trying to block him. And that's another thing I love about the San Francisco 49ers defense is when it comes to the running game, everybody gets in on it. It's not just the interior linemen. It's not just the linebackers. The defensive backs will get in on it too. And watch how Ward runs over and helps make this tackle. And another great thing about this 49ers run defense is a play like this, where basically the Green Bay Packers center and left guard, and then also their right guard and right tackle are going to have double teams. And watch how they just are unable to move either of the 49ers interior linemen here. And keep in mind, this isn't exactly like this is their two best players. This is Julian Taylor and also Sheldon Day. Two fine players, two pretty good players, but they're not two guys that are getting a ton of snaps by any means. These are definitely role players, but you know what? If you can do your role well, that's all that matters. And also, if you look, K'Wan Williams is, this has actually nothing to do with the play, but he, like I mentioned earlier, everybody's getting in on it. He's doing a good job of getting inside to where that receiver is and is able to also help potentially come in and make a play. But because of the way that those interior linemen did not allow the double teams to really work, they did not get pushed back, and also didn't really allow anyone to get off the double team to block somebody else, this just means that it's so easy for other 49ers to get in the area and make a tackle, and there's just nowhere for the Packers to go here. So basically, you just have a big-time matchup. You have a running game that consists of a lot of one-on-one matchups that is going to be going up right against a defense that oftentimes relies on guys being able to win their one-on-one matchups. They have a lot of really talented playmakers, and it absolutely could create some problems for Minnesota. I think Minnesota probably is going to have to pass the game a lot. They're going to have to trust Kirk Cousins a lot. It probably won't be just feed Dalvin Cook over and over again. That's just what I think is going to happen. The reason why I showed plays from the Packers game wasn't just because the 49ers beat up on the Packers or because a lot of Minnesota Vikings fans will probably watch this video and I want to make them happy, although I do. But one of the real reasons why I showed that game in particular is because I think that actually the way that the Packers run the ball and the way that the Vikings run the ball are very similar. And so hopefully the Vikings do it a lot better if you're a Vikings fan. Otherwise, it could be some trouble. I actually think this might be the worst possible matchup for the Vikings out of any of the divisional matchups they could be going up against. Maybe, at least in the NFC, I think they would probably much rather be going up against Green Bay, even though they lost to them twice already. Just simply because I think the 49ers could absolutely dominate on defense. I really think they could. That being said, if they could just even have mild success on offense, I could be completely wrong. And you could see Kirk Cousins, then if things are able to open up, be really able to pick apart the 49ers defense. That is totally a possibility. I'm not going to bet on it, but I'm not going to say it's definitely not going to happen either. Both teams definitely have a chance, although obviously the 49ers have a much greater chance. At least that's my opinion. That's just what I think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thanks for watching.